mirroring, arm chain, and rigging the tie. For this next step, we're going to take the hand root and make sure that it's parented to the end wrist. So before we move on, now I want to make sure that all my orientations are facing the right direction. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's select the forearm joint, press Shift P, go and select the shoulder joint, Control A. And we are going to angle this down slightly so that it flows with the mesh. You would see that right now the orientation is to the side. We want to make sure that we go into joint orient and rotate it slightly. So for mine is going to be -30. Now we're going to go into the next one, which will be the forearm. And furthermore, select the wrist, Shift P, change the values on the forearm. For mine is going to be -30. Well, I can even move that slightly more. Let's do -45, round that up. Actually, I'm going to do -50. Go back to my shoulder. I'm going to give that a little bit more of an angle. Let's do -40. Great. And lastly, let's select that wrist and let's angle it accordingly with -50. Now you might have noticed that now this controls the entire arm. What we want to do instead, let me just step back. While selecting the wrist, let's select the hand joint, Shift P, and now we can fix the wrist accordingly. Let's do -50. Right, so this chain is good to go. What we're going to be doing now, we're going to select the wrist and we're going to now select the forearm, hit P. Then I will be going into forearm and control select the shoulder and now hit P one more time. Now this will give us the right orientation here for the entire chain, which definitely looks much better. At this point, what I will do, grab this whole entire chain from the shoulder and go into skeleton and mirror joint. Take a closer look, make sure things looked okay, which they do. All right, fantastic. Up next, what we're going to be doing now is creating a chain joints for the tie. Let's go to the side view, go to skeleton, and let's go ahead and create 2 joints. We can actually hold down X. So we're going to create one here and then one all the way down. Let's go into the bottom one, hit Shift P, go into the top one, zero all these values out. Select the bottom one, Shift, select the top one, press P. Go ahead, select the top one and move it in place. You may use multiple angles to do this. Let's go ahead and translate the bottom one so that it fits at the tip of the tie, somewhere along there. Now we're going to be using the insert joint tool to create a couple more joints. Click over the joint and then drag. We're going to be creating a joint per segment. Let's go ahead and use a shaded view. So you can change your shaded view. And I believe this might be slightly easier to see. We're going to create a joint per each one of these segments so that we got total control of that tie. So we're going to create a few of them. Okay. Let's use the front view for this one. Click and drag. I'll create another one here. One there. One here. Okay, let me actually do it from the side view, because the front view is giving me a little bit of issues, and the last thing I want is to start creating joints when I don't need them. So let's just keep going from here. Probably I can use multiple views for this. Let's keep moving down the chain, just like so. Now I can grab my translate. Remember, hit the letter D, and we can now move this slightly into place. So as you can see, we can go back and fix this so that the flow is like perfect on each, but because there's a slight bend on my tie, things are slightly off. Now, is this a big deal? No. We can definitely work around this. It's important though that you do not rotate any of these by any chance. Okay, we can move them around all we want, however, we shall not rotate, because this will give us issues. Overall, what we're looking for is for the joint orient to be zeroed out, or if there's any angles, then that will be fine, but do not change any of the other values except for translate. So what I'm doing here is just moving around, trying to make sure that things are as accurate as possible, as close as possible. Try to do the best you can with your character. Remember, avoid rotation. And for me, this is close enough, so this is pretty good. All right, so now what we're going to be doing is to grab the first joint that we created, that root joint, and we're going to start renaming them. So we are going to bind this one to our closest joint, which is probably going to be what it is currently, joint 1. Shift select the neck joint, hit P, just like so. And now we're going to relabel each one of these joints. So we're going to call this bind tie A01. We're going to grab that name, select it, control copy, control C, and we're going to move down the chain, relabeling each one of these. For the next one, we're going to call it bind tie B01. And we're going to keep going. Remember that the last one is going to be called BE. Here we go. So this is how yours should look more or less. Up next, we're going to start with skinning and testing deformations.